What's going on, guys? Welcome to Tech Habit Weekly, episode 14. This is January 8th, 2014. Happy New Year. Hope you guys all had a great holiday. And hopefully, if you guys saw my update video that I just uploaded to my YouTube channel today, this show should be back every week, as the name suggests. I know I've said that in the past, but now we're starting a new semester at school. My job life has gotten a little bit easier. And so joining me, as usual, is Dontae Harris, Casey Nightmare, who we're going to say right now just got his hands on a 12-core Mac Pro, so he's he's kind of high on life right now. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. We have some tech news for you. We got some jailbreak stuff. Of course, most course of it we have like that focus on Apple. Some people may not like that, but we're all friends here, so no bashing. So Dontae, go ahead and kick us off with our the first story we have to talk about today, which is about the jailbreaks for iOS 7 and the A7 devices.
Okay, so basically, everyone's been talking about the jailbreaking community, and those of you who aren't familiar with the jailbreaking community, is basically unlocks features of your phone and tweaks and, just tools that you can go a little further and kind of extend the value of your device. Now, with this has been to me, and don't quote me on the time frame, but I think this has been one of the longest spans in between the jailbreak from like one update to the next. Normally,
Yeah, probably.
myself and Terrell, normally we keep our phones jailbroken and updated and everything with the new jailbreak tweak that comes out after. But for some reason, in between, iOS 6 and iOS 7, it was a long span of just nothing. And I don't know if it's because Apple, they're making it a little harder for these guys to find the exploits to be able to make these devices jailbreakable or anything. But I'm sure there's a lot of different variables with that. But the new jailbreak that comes from the invasion people here, and basically it jailbreaks your iOS 7 device and anything with an A7 64 chip. And that's actually huge because, the new iPads and the iPad mini with Retina display, and of course, iPhone 5S and things that have the A7 chip incorporated into the hardware. So a person like myself, I like being jailbroken just for the fact that there are some apps and some tweaks that you can't readily get yet. Apple's been doing pretty good as of late that some of the more popular jailbroken apps that are in Cydia have kind of been incorporated into the iPhone. One of the biggest things I used to use was SB settings. SB settings was
Yes.
a pull down menu where basically you can turn off your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, and switch the toggles and things like that very quickly. Well, of course, with iOS 7, we have that same deal, and Bob's going to show, yep, just that's it. Now, it's activated a little differently, and hopefully we'll see with some updates to iOS and maybe be able to change which toggles you want and be able to fully customize all of that. But that was one of the biggest things I liked. The second thing was Byte SMS. There was a app, Byte SMS, where basically you can put account pictures and I'm sorry, not account pictures, but profile pictures or contact pictures to your text messages, so you can basically see who you're texting. And I just thought it was just a nice little feature that, for some reason, in the message app that we just haven't quite had yet. So that was another thing. And then being able to text and on top of apps that you didn't have to actually go into your text message app as a separate deal to text someone. You could text someone right over top of a video and send it, and your video would still play. And I thought it was pretty cool.
It's probably my favorite feature.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And for those of you who haven't used it, it's kind of hard for me to explain because we all see it. We get our text messages on top of pretty much everything. But the thing is, when you go to reply, it flips over into your text message app so you can actually text that person. And then once you send it, yes, you can go into multitasking and go back to your previous app that you had open. But by SMS, you can text right over top and it doesn't interfere with anything. And I thought that was a really good thing. Now, one thing myself and Terrell always talk about is the animation speeds. A lot of people, especially when iOS 7 first came out, the animations were really funny and and they were slow. Honestly, I felt like, man, you click Safari and it's like, poof, and then it comes up, I'm like, okay.
Look how beautiful this is.
Right.
Now you can use it.
I always thought that was a problem. Well, there was a tweak out where that we had on iOS 6 that sped up animations of like your mail and everything, and you could actually set how fast things loaded. And basically, your phone's already doing the operation for you. It's just that the animation on top is going to take a little longer. So what we did was we applied the tweak to our iPhone 5s at the time, and that had iOS 6 on it. And when we click, Safari, Mail, messages, and what it popped, boom, 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 like really fast, but it's not speeding the phone up. It looks like it is. So when you put two people's phones together and say, okay, let's hit the message app, 1, 2, 3, click, and yours hits it, in a considerable amount of speed faster than the person who maybe their phone wasn't jailbroken. And over here, he's got an app that's called No Slow Animations, and basically it helps speeds up the animations that are in iOS 7, which is good because I actually
Very
at first
helpful.
I liked the accelerometer and and all that to be able to see, but then after a while I got kind of like I don't really care for that, and I actually manually turned it off. And now that I'm actually glad that the animations are a little faster, but I still think they're a little too slow, and that's just for me
Yeah.
because I always thought the animations were cool, I guess, but at the end of the day, I want
You
something as
just
soon
want
as
to
I click
use
it,
your
it
phone.
pops up. Yeah, that's it. And that's a tweak that he ran across me over the phone one day, and that's something that you can basically set the speed to however you want, and it says here that if you want to mess with the tweak down in there, you want to probably try to set it. The default is 0.0 and has an instant speed, but you can set it as slow or as fast as you want as far as that toggle bar once it's actually enabled. I actually haven't jailbroken my phone yet. I just haven't had a lot of time in between work and school, but I was going to jailbreak my phone and go through and grab some of those apps that I like to use. And most people, a lot of people they're into themes, and I used to be back in like iOS 3 or something.
Same here. Yep.
I was really big into I'm going to have my favorite sporting teams theme or something like that. And right now, not so much. I probably haven't done that in a very long time. And but that's another huge advantage to jailbreaking your phone is to be able to almost completely customize your phone in any way that you see fit, even as to replacing the carrier's name with your own name or some funny saying or a picture if you want. I remember at one point I had like the Transformers Autobot symbol as my carrier symbol, and it's just little things like that help you customize the phone to your liking and to your experience. I think it's pretty cool about jailbreaking. I don't know about you, Bob, but that's my experience as far as jailbreaking, and
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
Yeah, well, the main reason that I never like to jailbreak my phones is because typically over time the performance tends to go down quite a bit. So does the stability and the reliability, which is honestly why I buy an iPhone. I think the reason that a lot of people want to jailbreak their iOS device is because they love the customization of Android and they love the stability of iOS and they want to be able to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be involved in Apple's operating system, have it be really stable, but also be able to customize their phone. And as the hardware keeps getting more modern, and now we have a 64-bit chip, I do feel that the slowdowns are going to be less. They're going to be more gradual. I remember back I had like an iPhone 4s, 4S even. That was the first dual core phone. Even that, I would go to launch my camera app and it would just crash. And I'd be like, all right, I just missed that photo opportunity. That's great. So then, that is ultimately, and I made a video about this probably 2 years ago on my channel of why I unjailbroke. And that was a big reason that I just couldn't rely on my phone as much as I had before I jailbroke. And at the end of the day, when it comes to a desktop, I really do like to be able to build it myself, customize what operating system goes on there, things like that. But when it comes to my phone, I just need it to work. I need to be able to get in contact with people. I need to be able to catch that picture opportunity. And I found that when I jailbreak, it really messes with the phone. I don't like that. And so I'm just like you. I haven't jailbroken my phone yet. And I honestly don't plan on it. Do you think that you plan on jailbreaking to test out some of these tweaks?
Yes, I do plan on jailbreaking it to test out the tweaks, but I can't say I'm going to stay permanently jailbroken, and it's because of the same exact reasons that you said. I've had plenty of times where, like you said, something would crash, or you just felt like is my phone getting slower? The longer I'm
Yep.
jailbroken, and also with more tweaks that you have on there. Like there was at one point I had a lot of tweaks going on. I'm talking a complete different weather app, and it was on the lock screen, and there was a lot going on. I mean, SB settings and reprogramming the buttons. There was points where basically I had a app where I could reprogram my power button. I click it twice for my flashlight to come on as far as on
Ah.
my yeah, that was really handy. But that's just another thing that's going to slow down the phone from its normal operations.
And
So
another thing that Apple has added to the operating system is quick access to the flashlight.
exactly, and honestly, since they done that, I can't complain about it. I mean, I actually use that a lot. There's times where
Same
I'm
here.
fumbling around in my car or something. I'm like, well, wait a minute, and I put on the flashlight, and I'm like, okay, cool. Then pull it out now because now it's not a separate app. Now it's not
Exactly.
where you have to go in the app store to download some flashlight app. And then I like the fact that it's not in a flashlight that just turns your screen white, and that
Yes,
type of thing.
exactly.
So, but yeah, like you said, I'll do it just to test it out, but more likely I won't stay because honestly, I like the way iOS 7 is. I like the way the smoothness was. One of the biggest things I actually had a problem with, and now it's actually fixed, was not being able to have a lock screen with the borders. I like the fact that I don't know if you guys remember that there used to be borders around the
Yeah. Uh-huh.
time and the slide to unlock button. Well, I like the fact that it's transparent and it looks a lot smoother.
The
And
cleaner.
I don't know, yeah, it looks a lot cleaner. Just having those bars there, it looked like it just kind of constricted my wallpaper too. And I'm one of those guys that my first page is a wallpaper, and I actually got that from an old jailbroken app. So yeah, that's my first page, and it always stays like I just like to have an
Nice.
actual clean wallpaper, and then I scroll to my apps. And I've only have one page of apps because I'm using so many folders. But
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
but yeah, it's definitely a lot cleaner. I feel like the subtle things, the little things, are what counts to me anyway, as far as look on the phone, and that was one of the big things for me. But honestly, like I said, we all just want a stable system, so I'll definitely try it out, but definitely won't stay on it.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. Even back in the day when I had my 4S and I made that video about unjailbreaking, there were still people back then that were saying you just installed a bad tweak because my phone works perfectly. And
Right.
it like you said, all depends on what you install. It could be a poorly optimized app or something. It doesn't take much to crash a phone. So I mean, maybe now that apps are starting to become more, I guess, like optimized for the 5 and the 5S and the A7s and stuff, and just how fast this chip is and how good of a GPU is in here nowadays, maybe those slowdowns will be a lot less. Like I said earlier, they won't slow down your phone as much, and maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised and we'll try it out, and you'll message me in a week and say, "Dude, you have to jailbreak. It's actually really good
Yeah.
now." So I mean, we could be pleasantly surprised. Who knows? Be sure to let us know in the comments whether you jailbreak your phone, why or why not. Or are you one of those people that are like, lol, what? You use an iPhone? I'm Android. I could do all this stuff, no doubt, no problem. So be sure to let us know down in the comments if you're one of those people or not. So now we're going to move on. It's still on the verge of jailbreaking, but iOS 7.1 beta 3 is out, or not out, but it's been seeded to developers, and the jailbreak still works on the betas. Do you find that surprising?
Actually, yes, because normally on all the jailbreaks I've done since the first generation iPhone, as soon as there was some sort of update or something that is not specific to your ISPW, that was it. Your jailbreak is over.
Yep.
You couldn't just upgrade from 3.1.2 to 3.1.3 and it used the same exact jailbreak. There was a different jailbreak back then. That was what I think Black Rain at the time. Then it was like a Spirit jailbreak. I want to say on 3.1.3 for those who've been around the jailbreaking community and using iPhones for that long. But for it to cross over to the beta, it doesn't make sense. It's kind of weird that it's not patched because I mean, once the full version comes out, it probably will be patched because
Yeah.
normally that's what happens with every update. That's why you have to wait for developers to come up with another exploit to be able to do it. And that was another reason why on jailbreaking that I kind of just got sick of it because I was waiting a lot to
You're
get the new
stuck
updates.
behind.
Yeah. And I'm like, and people are like, oh, hey, have you seen that? And I'm like, no, but I've got an app that does something similar to it because I want to still jailbroken. And at the time I was on T-Mobile using iPhones, so I had to be jailbroken and unlocked. So,
Yeah.
just probably about 2 years ago is the first time I actually got on AT&T, a carrier that can actually carry the iPhone, and had no problems. I didn't have to rely on a jailbreak or an unlock because it seemed like they didn't update Ultra Snow forever at one point, and it was killing me. So I was like, I need to just get on the right carrier, and that way I don't have to worry about updates. But yeah, that is kind of peculiar to me, especially for. It says here that I hate snow, developer of jailbreak tools such as Snowbreeze, and more recently, was it Poison? Whoa, how you say that? Poisix Pone. Anywho,
I'm
the
not sure.
untethered. Yeah, that one kind of threw me off. Anyway, the untethered jailbreak of iOS 6.1.3 and iOS 6.1.5 has just tweeted that Apple has not fixed the exploits in iOS 7.1 beta 3, and that's on the article here. And yeah, like I said, I think that's only because it's an early development. I think because it's a beta, that's why. But when it actually comes out to be a full iOS 7.1, I'm pretty sure that exploit will not work. And that's just how they
I
always
agree.
been.
Yeah,
So,
Apple's going to give us hope with that. They didn't patch it in the developer preview, and then all of a sudden it's going to launch and it'll be screwed. They're just big, all
exactly.
that work, and I have to find a whole new exploit.
So
Sorry,
those so
guys, you
those
have
of
to wait.
you so those of you that are requiring an unlock or just being jailbroken, I'd stay away from just trying to test out that beta for
Yeah.
now. And
Once it
just
officially comes out, it'll be worth the wait. You'll know then.
right.
But so speaking of iOS 7.1, the beta 3, starting to get a little bit off the jailbreak, just a couple of the new features. A lot of the new features are just interface stuff. There's a couple of screens here, slide to power off. Instead of being the slider here, actually, I'll go ahead and I'll show you really quick here. This is previously what you would get, something that looks a little bit like this. Now, hopefully, we have this in the video version right now. There's a whole new slide to power off button. There's a lot of circular buttons instead of being long rectangles, and it does look nice. It looks fresh. It looks different. That's something I like that Apple's doing. They're actively on their consumers say, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? What can we change? One thing I hope they change is the Safari icon because that thing got hit with a
Oh,
fugly stick. Yeah, that thing
oh
is
my
bad.
God. That thing's
Yeah,
brutal
it's
looking.
yeah.
Number one, like you said, I do like the more circular sliders and whatnot, but I'm just wondering if that's such a big transition from the way it was. And and a lot of people, they don't like change. And I mean, to me, it looks clean. I think it looks nice, especially in the phone app and things like that. Because I always thought it was weird that to answer a call, like say if you already have your phone unlocked and doing something, and you get a call, and your call button and everything are there rectangles. I've always thought that was weird, and I was like, well, why did they go with that? But that was just personally. But being able to decline and accept a phone call on two different sides is, I think that's really good because there's times I've hung up on people trying to answer the phone because the buttons were so
Yes,
close
yeah.
together. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't, at the time, I probably didn't think of it as a problem. But now that I see that they actually put some space in between them and made them circular, that made perfect sense. And
Yeah.
I like it. That does look good. I mean, like you said, I do hope they update the Safari app icon. I don't know
It's
what.
just gotta go.
Honestly, you can't even tell really what that is. We all know it's a compass, but it doesn't look like a compass to me. I'm just like, well, what? You know, I don't know. That's
Exactly,
weird.
yeah.
And maybe we will see some different app icon updates. Honestly, I think they could have done better with the calendar app
Yeah,
icon.
it
It's
seems
just
like
too to me.
too
It's just a
like
little too basic. Yeah, yeah. I think they
yeah.
just could have done something, or even just make it look like a smaller calendar or something inside there. We all get the deal. It's a calendar, but other than that, I can see that they have. You can actually reduce the transparency. You can actually darken the colors and reduce the white point and on it. And I mean, honestly, that to me is one thing that Apple's actually doing is they're listening to the consumers. They're listening to the people that say, hey, these things are too bright, or
Yeah.
why does it have to be so transparent and things like that? And the transparency has never really bothered me, but for someone else, that may be a problem as far as like having a wallpaper in the background and
Yeah.
whatnot. And and if you want to change it, at least there's options to do so. And I think it's being a lot more user friendly to be able to change things to your exact preference. So I
Yeah, it's
think this
kind
will
of a
be a good
freedom that
thing.
we've never had on an iPhone, actually.
Yeah, that's very true because that's where the whole jailbreaking came in. I mean, if you wanted to have a crazy background or something on your text message app, you had to basically be jailbroken and use some sort of a wallpaper app to do that. Well, that we also know that on Android, it's a lot easier. I mean, most of those things are
Yeah.
usually in their Google Play Store, and you can just download them, and it's no big deal. You can change. I've seen people have leopard print keyboards and
Yep.
Miley Cyrus lock unlock screens, where you have to hit the tongue and then it'll do it. And that's a true
It's like
story.
20 movement.
Yeah. And so we've all known that Android system has been a lot more customizable than iOS, but also when you go to put all those tweaks and customizations on there, you are suffering with performance. And I believe that's
Yeah.
why Apple has taken so long to give the consumers more control of the actual iOS. But with these little tweaks like this, I think we're headed in the right direction. Do I think we'll be
Absolutely.
changing keyboards and things anytime soon? I don't think so. But I do think that at least if there is something that can actually cause a problem or something or of a huge preference that you go, I don't like, I'm glad that Apple is incorporating this into iOS to make you or to let you change it basically without waiting for another
Yeah.
update. And yes, I know this update did fix that, but at least they're taking that into consideration. But like I said, I don't think they're going to go into, changing different styles of unlocking. I mean, I like the slide to unlock and the code, and of course with the thumbprint and things like that. I think that's just fine enough. Drawing patterns and all that, probably not. And and like I said, if I could see a few app icon updates, that would make me happy. And we'll just go from there because I do like the keyboards the way they are. But Terrell did have a broken tweak where he had the black keyboard as his standard keyboard. I thought that was pretty nice because I have the space gray iPhone 5S, and I
Yeah.
think that
Same here.
having that gray keyboard would
It'd
look nice to
match.
have it all the time. Yeah, that'd be really nice. And that's just one thing. I mean, when you actually get down into it, the different fonts and things that I've been seeing, and how you can actually change the sizes and things.
Yes,
I think that's
exactly.
pretty cool. I think that's really cool. And I don't know if people dug that deep down into their system to find that or anything, but yeah, you can actually like change the font sizes and things.
Yep.
It's really
Another thing
nice.
Apple is allowing developers to do, you can actually change the app or the font within different apps. Like you can have a different size font in Tweetbot than you do in your Messages app. So they're actually letting developers have independent font controls. And I use Tweetbot because they actually did implement that in their newest version. And it's a feature that it's great because on this screen, I mean, let's be honest, iPhones don't have the biggest screen. I think it's a great size, but by making the font size of each tweet smaller, I can get 1 to 2 extra tweets on my screen per time, like per on there than I could before, where the font was
Right.
bigger. So I can get more tweets, but say maybe I don't want more messages, and I can make that font bigger in that application. So it's not that, I have bad eyes. I mean, it is good for people that do have bad vision, that need
Yeah.
glasses, for accessibility reasons. But to be able to have, I want this application to show me more information than this application just by making the font smaller. And Apple giving developers the freedom for the first time ever to do that is a big deal. And even just what we've been talking about with changing interfaces, that's something that Apple has never let us do. And the fact that they're letting us do this, it's a step in the right direction. Like you say, I don't think they'll let us be able to, put a background on our messaging app or change to a different keyboard or anything. But it's a new layer of freedom that, it's like a post Jobs era. Jobs, I don't think would ever allow us to do any of this. But now Apple is slightly changing a little bit, giving the user a little bit more control. So do you think that's a good thing? Where do you think that they'll, stop that? Do you think that like
Um,
with no keyboards or anything?
honestly, honestly, I think Apple has a trend on when they start something, they just get better and better. I mean, when they gave us multitasking, they gave it to us in, in increments, and then now it's like a full blown thing. Now it's huge.
Yeah.
I love the way the multitasking works. It's the same thing as, when they implemented Siri and some of the voice controls. Well, they didn't just come out with it one time with the 4S and let it go. No, now she's able to understand more commands and set my brightness to this and, things like that. So I think they're going to go even further, but I don't think, like you said, it'll be as drastic as, we're swapping different keyboards and, or I have a complete different style of unlock and launcher or something. I don't think it'll go that drastic, but I think just some of the accessibility issues and some of the issues as far as motion and things like that, and maybe they'll give us some sort of I don't know if they'll give us like some themes per se, like, oh, there's Apple's red theme or something. I think that would be kind of cool, like if you have an iPhone 5C or something, instead of just having that little background. But if they kind of just gave the whole scheme, like if you have a blue one, that all the icons kind of have like a blue hue to it or something like that, I think that'd be nice because it's still a choice. You don't have to do it. And I just think it's really nice because there are things that people do complain about, of course, because, we're people, we're not going to all like the same things. And it just helps kind of hush that crowd because you can't say, I can't do that. You just gonna have to find something else that you probably don't like and see if they'll fix that too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and Apple allowing this customization, it can be kind of a slippery slope. I mean, before iOS 7, I think everyone that used an iPhone just got used to the idea that this is what Apple gave me and this is all we can do. That's it. But now that Apple's, they're letting us customize these few things, that's going to leave people wanting a lot more, which is why, I brought up like the previous point. Where is Apple going to cut that off and say, if you want that, then that's when you need to go to Android because we will not offer you that. So it's kind of a slippery slope. Once you taste the sweetness, you just keep wanting more of it. And once again, it could be a slippery slope. But be sure to let us know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Do you like the new layer of customization that Apple's giving us with iOS 7? Do you think it, like I say, a slippery slope? Where does it end? Be sure to let us know what you think about that. Moving on, another phone-related story, but carrier, T-Mobile recently announced that they will offer you up to $350, which is what a lot of carriers charge, for an early termination fee. They'll pay that for you to switch to T-Mobile. Now, Dontae, why do you think they would do this? Do you think this is kind of like all right, we're not that big of a carrier, we're losing customers, we need something, and kind of like out of being, I don't want to say desperate, but do they need people that bad on T-Mobile that they're offering this, or do you think they're, it's something else?
Honestly, as far as like the rate plans and things go, T-Mobile is very affordable. I used to be on T-Mobile myself. I actually never had a problem with T-Mobile, but as of right now, no one really talks about T-Mobile. I think this is just a clever marketing scheme to get customers and people signed up to 2-year agreements and things, because you have to realize in the life of that 2-year agreement, you're paying more than $350. You still need to buy a phone. You still, need to pay, for activation. You still need to, more likely, and data. And then people are going to say, hey, you're going to have to get that, that premium installment plan for your repairs just in case anything breaks, and then we're going to refer you to another outside company. Then that outside company can decide if they're going to switch that thing off, and then there's going to be a slight deposit, but it's going to be $10 a month, and on top of everything else. So they're getting over by that. So spending $350 on you up front is nothing to them. And they just need to tie people into contracts. That's how you keep things reoccurring. You tie them into contracts. So I think it's a good deal if a person absolutely just hates AT&T, Verizon, or Sprint, and they're like in between contracts, and they're like, well, I just want to go to T-Mobile. And if they will take care of their early termination fees to get them over there, that's a good deal. Now, believe me, it's not a good idea if you're just going to, be on there for, a little while or something like that. But honestly, no one else is offering that. No one else is offering that. So that I've seen thus far. So with T-Mobile doing this, I guarantee you this is a marketing scheme to get more customers to them, because honestly, and I don't know how much people actually watch the media and whatnot, but I kind of pay attention to it, at least even when I'm watching, Sons of Anarchy or something, and I'll notice that there's less and less T-Mobile commercials. There used to be a T-Mobile commercial every other commercial, and now I'm thinking that they've cut the marketing for that, and you're going to do less and less commercials, but try to put these plans of action into there to be able to get more customers there, because even with having the iPhone, they're not doing as good as they thought they would. because
Yeah,
by the time they finally got it, it was a huge deal when they got it. But the problem was the ways to get the iPhone, because it's an unlocked phone. It's not like you can get the phone, and it's just already got T-Mobile service and everything. It's unlocked, and that's why. And then people were like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm probably not going to do that."
yeah,
And that's a big deal. And like I said, $350 per line is nothing compared to how much they're going to get you on.
for
Okay,
two
well,
years.
yeah, because hypothetically speaking, I haven't went through everything about this article, but I'm seeing here that says customers have been flocking to T-Mobile for its no annual service contract, simple choice plan, industry leading jump upgrade program, unlimited global data at no extra charge in 100 plus countries, and most recently for free data for life on every tablet up to 200 megabytes.
Oof, it sounded so
Yeah,
good.
if you know anything about technology, that thing is not enough to go through my Twitter feed. 200 megabytes?
No,
I mean, you've got to be kidding me. And for a tablet, that's a joke. I mean, to
yeah.
me, because if you're on Skype or FaceTime or something like that, you're going to be burning up
In
some
this
data.
one episode alone, we've used more than 200 megabytes.
I promise
Just
you.
in this Skype call.
Right. So just think about, and of course, yes, people are probably saying, okay, we'll just get on Wi-Fi. Okay, that makes sense. But when you're on the go and trying to do some things like that, that will be burned up so
That
quickly.
one time we use all of your data for the whole month.
Exactly. So that's where it hits you right there. But then they go on further to say 4G LTE data every month for as long as they own their tablet and use the registered device with T-Mobile. And just by how everything has been going, because remember T-Mobile's going through that deal where they didn't know if AT&T was going to buy them out, but then
Yeah.
Sprint had their thing saying no, they're monopolizing all the GSM companies and things like that because everyone else is on a CDMA architecture, and it made sense, and apparently they won their deal, so that's why T-Mobile is still around. I'm actually surprised they're still around because of that. They were looking for buyers, and this is just a clever scheme to get people over there. And
Yeah.
honestly, I say to the person that was thinking about it, read the small print, because that just one detail right there was like, wait a minute, because it says here, now families are free to switch without worrying about early termination fees. And by switching to T-Mobile, a family of four can save $1,880 over 2 years compared to an AT&T shared family plan. I'm like, okay, let's do some simple addition. Okay, they already paid for you to get off of, say, AT&T, and it costs $350 a line for
That's
a family of four.
fourteen
There
hundred
you
for four
go. There's
people.
1,400. Okay, so we're already at 1,400. Okay, now every one of you guys still need a phone. Well, most phones cost around $199, for a brand new, new line and everything.
On a
So
contract, yeah.
on a contract. So you take 1,400 plus I'm sorry, because T-Mobile doesn't have contracts. I'm sorry, I was just informed about that. But still, you're going to be in one of two brackets. Number one, the reason why we pay $200 for our iPhones and whatnot when we get a new when we upgrade is to stay on AT&T or T-Mobile or Sprint or whoever for 2 more years.
Yeah.
That's why it's a promotion price. So now, if they pay all this money, $1,400 for just one family to get on their plan, how much are their phones going to be? Because to me, their phone should be considerably
Yep.
more because
If you
there's no
buy right
contract.
now, if you go to Apple and you go to buy like a 5S on T-Mobile, I think the 16 gig starts at 649, right? 650. So if you buy two unlocked iPhones, that's already the cost of what they're saving, right?
That makes perfect sense to me. But they also have the payment plan option where you can
Okay.
actually pay it off like during the life of how you're doing. Honestly, to me, it sounds like that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money up
Yeah.
front to have cell phone service. And I'd rather just be on a contract because more than likely I'm going to stay on the same company and I'm going to upgrade because I want the new iPhone. And in that way, it actually makes it harder because number one, I don't with the whole, jump service and things like that, it gets a little confusing because you're paying so much more for your phone, but you have no contract. So technically you could leave at any point that you want, but I don't know if that's such a good move, because I like the promotional
Exactly.
price. I think I paid $300 for my 32
32 gig.
gig. Yeah. And I love it, but I also sold my iPhone 5 for $550. So if you could make that type of turnaround on your mobile device, then yeah, it would be worth it. But going into it like that, I'm not sure, especially going into it and needing T-Mobile phones. That to
Yes.
me is
Mhm.
that's a little sketchy.
And
If you
it
had
really
another
all
option,
depends. It depends on where you live too. And maybe wherever you live, maybe you don't get good Verizon service or very good AT&T service, and for some reason your T-Mobile is just awesome. Then that's more of an incentive. But for where I live, I have Verizon, and right now, I mean, I have 4 bars of service. I have no need to go to T-Mobile. I'd rather just, like you say, stay where I am, where I know is safe, and I could sell this phone. I could gazelle it at the end of the year or whenever at the end of my contract, and I can actually profit. I could get, at least break even for what I paid for this phone and to
right?
get a whole new phone.
And then there's also this, and this will be the last point I make about this, is since I haven't been on T-Mobile's in years to the point where they had all these services and no contracts and things like that. To me, when you're actually on a contract, I feel like the carrier will actually work a little harder to keep your service. But when you don't have a contract, you're like, okay, bye, and I'm having a problem with this. Well, you don't have a contract. So if you like to leave, here's the door. They just want these people to come in because they still need to sell these mobile devices. They still need to get, and matter of fact, they're actually making their money quicker if you think about it. Because number one, they spent the money up front, but then if you put the money down first on it or buy it outright, they got it right there. But of course, with AT&T or Sprint or Verizon, who actually have contracts, they actually get their money over the span of 24 months
Yeah.
and then some. So it makes perfect sense. But that to me personally, I wouldn't do it. And unless, like you said, you were just in a bad area where T-Mobile would be awesome to just jump on and get that, go ahead. But it's just like I said, in megabytes and some of the things that they're offering, I wouldn't do it. I think it's good. I mean, I think it's good. It's a very clever marketing scheme because no one else is doing that I know of. And I mean, it's pretty good deal, as
Yeah.
far as if you're going to switch. But you just got to watch those megabytes. We're paying for data like crazy, and I actually have the mobile share plan on my phone. That way I can actually take my 4G LTE from here and port it to something else like a laptop or
Yeah. Mhm.
a tablet or something, because you never know. I get stuck in situations where I'm like, well, I actually need it to go to this for now. So I pay it and it works very well. So it's just little things like that. And that's why data usage and paying for data is such a big thing. That's why there's no real unlimited data anymore, is
Exactly.
because when they were giving it away, they didn't realize how much data people could actually use and what people were doing with the data. So they're like, oh, we need to charge for that. There's a guy, he's downloading 6, 7 gigs or a month. And he's tethering to his laptop for work or something. So now they're like, well, wait a minute, we're going to make you pay for that. And not only pay for that, we're going to throttle you down once you hit a
Yep.
certain point.
Cat.
So, yeah. So, but that's my thoughts. I mean, like I said, if there's any people out there that think this is a really good program, let us know in the comments. But honestly, for me, I just wouldn't do it. I like my service at AT&T, but I definitely, if someone was trying to get me to swing over to their company, they're going to offer me to terminate my contract. I mean, that's a very good way to start. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
So,
it is. It's definitely clever, but whenever something like this comes around, you have to read the fine print. I mean, a lot of people on the surface don't realize how complex all these different carriers and all their little fine print can be. So this looks awesome on the surface, but if you're really considering doing this, make sure you know that that awesome tablet data they offer is only 200 megabytes, and I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg of the fine print that's involved with this. So be careful. Don't go throwing out your contract, and because let me tell you, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, no matter how green they make it look up front. So, like Dontae said, be sure to let us know in the comments what you think about this story, if this is a good move for T-Mobile, or if you think this is, once again, kind of the beginning of their end. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a very brief break here, and we're going to give you a nice little deal that we stumbled across from Stack Social, and it's for an iPhone lens. Now, obviously, lens being, for the camera. I personally, for the New Year's, I went to New York, and trust me, this camera got its use. I went and saw, Statue of Liberty, pictures of Times Square and stuff, and I would have loved to have this camera lens for how much I took my pictures. Do you find yourself in, similar scenarios?
Oh yes, definitely. My iPhone. I mean, we both have iPhone 5Ss, and they take amazing pictures. And I'm not just trying to say this like I'm an Apple fanboy or anything like that. When the quality's there, the quality is there. I don't care if you have an Android
Yeah,
phone that takes very good pictures. I'm really about my pictures, and it's funny because before we actually started this podcast, for the listeners out there, myself and Bob were having a conversation about I was actually getting ready to buy some macro lenses for my iPhone 5S to take better pictures with because of how powerful the camera is on this thing. Now, having lenses like this that's in this deal here from Stack Social would definitely benefit me because I mean, just taking regular pictures on this phone without the lens is awesome. So having something like that to enhance the image and make and sharpness, that's really good. I mean, just like you said, when you were in New York, I mean, you don't live in New York, so going there, of
yeah,
course, you want to capture those memories and those moments. So having a better lens on your camera that takes already really good photos would be really good and very beneficial to me. And even if you just maybe you're not really into cameras and things like that, but just taking pictures to capture the moment and you can go back and go, man, that was a real nice picture. It doesn't look
yeah.
grainy, and that's a big deal. And for and on here on stacksocial.com, we have this. Oh, I'm sorry. One place for deals.com, we have the Stack Social deal here for $19, and that's 34% off the normal price of $29. That's pretty good because some of those macro lens packs that you see, some of them were like $9 and it only had two lenses. So, and with this thing, it seems like it's a lot more powerful than having to switch it around and things like that. And
Yeah.
it looks really good. I mean, because you get one spy lens, you get three magnetic rings that's compatible with the 4, the 5, and the 5S, and actually three magnetic rings that can actually be compatible to Android phones. So this is not something that's just used only on an iPhone. So the picture does have an image of an iPhone, but it definitely says that you can use this on your Android device, and it seems like it's really good. And for the price, you can't beat it because just being able to have that backwards compatibility to go from one architecture to the next, it's not just iPhone specific. That's a real good deal to be able to get a price
Yeah.
for this product and be able to not be, I guess, proprietary to one particular architecture. Looks like it's really good, and I actually will probably be buying this and checking this out. But there is a limit. There's the limit is 3 and limit 3.5 per customer. And now some of the terms and conditions, there's no refunds, all sales are final. And of course, this is a promotion only that's going to be available in the United States, Australia,
Bunch of
Austria,
countries.
Belgium, yeah, a bunch of countries, yeah. And so just if you're out of the area and in a different country watching and or listening to this podcast, just make sure you go through and look and read some of the terms and conditions and make sure that this thing is good for you and will be available for in your area. But to me, it looks like it is very good. I definitely want to see this up close and personal and see what it can do. But honestly, for that price, you can't beat it. I mean, you're getting a
Absolutely, yeah.
lot. So
Yeah, there's a lot of people nowadays that the cameras are so good on, not just iPhones, like you say, any phone really, but especially the iPhone. I love the pictures I get from this thing,
yes.
and like say, I mean, if they could be enhanced for $20, I would have loved to have that. And whenever I would go on vacation, rather than having to take like an actual like DSLR or something, while a lot of people may still want to do that, for a really true picture to edit with an aperture or whatever have you. I'm not that kind of person. I just want my memories to look good. And this is probably the cheapest way to do it because, once again, the camera and the sensor in this thing is so good. So, if you really want to optimize your picture taking, get some really nice, clear snaps, which, by the way, you can edit iPhone pictures in aperture. I'm not saying you can't. But so yeah, definitely be sure to go through one place for deals. It really helps us out. And so for like I said, for $19, this is 34% off the normal price. 1p2b.co/SSL. Be sure the S's are capital. That way you can go through us, and it really helps out the support the podcast if you guys like us, which I would hope you do if you watch this much into the podcast. So, like I said, be sure to check that out. And we're going to move on to our second to last story for the day. And this is something that I've actually been waiting for a long time, and I can't wait till the price, comes down to this range across the board. But
Yeah.
Dell has, announced a $699 28-inch 4K display. I would kill to have this thing. I wish I had $700 that I could just throw away right now, and I don't. But Dontae, what do you think this means for the industry? Do you think that we'll start to see displays come out that maybe from Asus or HP or something this will force the prices down, or do you think maybe that this is kind of like a cheap monitor? I mean, it's from Dell. I wouldn't think so, but I mean, Apple. Do you think Apple will release their own in this price range? Do you think it'll be higher? What do you think this will do for the industry in terms of 4K monitor prices?
Well, definitely, I feel like Apple, if they're going to come out with something like this, it would be at a premium price because I feel like it's going to have more options and things, and not just because it's a 4K display. 4K displays already aren't cheap at all. And I can tell you that right now, this 28-inch 4K display from Dell right now makes me want to I'd run over my mother with a bus to get to that display. And that, I
That's
mean,
deep.
honestly, and having 28 inches of that, well, number one, you have to make sure that however you're doing this, if you have, like, I have a 2009 Mac Pro that I'm using that's been upgraded to 2010. Well, you got to make sure too that your video cards and things can handle 4K to be able to actually do this. But honestly, I mean, at that price, and is how much those 4K displays are, and it's a reputable name. It's not like it's coming from some name we've never heard of, and something that keeps the price that low. I mean, I think there's some developers, like you said, like Asus or even Acer and other companies that are known for making monitors. They need to jump on the wagon and say, okay, we need to drop our prices when we start making these 4K displays, because Dell is knocking this one out of the park. And honestly, all that's going to do is up the hype for 4K, because it's the next biggest thing in
Yep.
technology. Like right now, I have two 1080p monitors, and I'm more likely going to buy a third one. Why? Because the 4Ks are so expensive. There's no way I could just flip that into 2 or 3 4K displays. But with a price point like that, that's very, very convincing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd get one just to have one, and we'll
Yeah,
definitely
this is
see.
less than Apple's 1440p monitor.
Yeah. So that's just, I mean, and people, and I'm sure you guys on the podcast already know about 4K and what the resolution is, and things like that, and how amazing Ultra HD looks. But you have to realize the price point. This is very new technology, and also it is very expensive. So the people who actually have YouTube videos that are running in 4K and who actually have 4K displays and things like that, they have put some money into
Oh
their
yeah, absolutely.
systems and into their
Their
actual
setup.
budget and their setup. And to get something more manageable at this price point, honestly, I have no problem with that price, just because of how expensive everything else is right now. Now, honestly, that's really the next thing that I believe Apple is going to do, because we haven't seen a new cinema display. Basically, we have the Thunderbolt display, but it's not in the same form factor as like the new iMac. So
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering about. I was like, well, when are they going to come out with that? And I was like, you know what? I guarantee they probably can that to say, hey, we got to get ready for this 4K. And I'm sure it's going to be 30 inches or so. And hopefully the aspect and everything looks really good. And of course, Apple has a very premium product. And when it comes out, I don't think it'll touch anywhere near $699. I can see it
Yeah.
being $999. I can definitely see that, and that's if they can cut it that low, because the Thunderbolt displays are that price currently. So
I
we'll
could see
definitely
two
see.
grand.
Yeah, I very well could see 2 grand because of what it is, and it's very nice. I would love to get a 4K display, and especially coming from someone like someplace like Dell, because I've seen people have 30-inch Dell monitors. Terrell used to have some 30-inch Asus monitors, and they were 2560 by 1440, and it looked beautiful. And that's just and that was just those, not not having 4K. There's a
Yeah.
different company called I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's either Seiki or Seki or Seki, however you say it. They have
Bless
a
you.
4K. Yeah, basically, they have a 4K display that's pretty cheap, and I believe Terrell wasn't at around $500, I believe. Um, for yes, it was $500 for their 4K display, but there's been mixed reviews on it. I mean, it's kind of hit and miss. Some people saying, hey, if you want just a 4K, go ahead and buy it. Other people saying the performance isn't very well because it runs at 30 hertz and things like that. But with something like this at just from going from $500 to get iffy or $700 to get it right, $700 all the way for 4K.
Yeah.
I'd do it in a heartbeat. I don't know what do you think? Well, if the prices go a little bit lower, or even at this price, do you see yourself getting a 4K display?
I see myself getting three of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I would need to upgrade my computer a little bit, but absolutely. One thing I don't see on this monitor, in this at least in this article, is the frequency, like the amount of hertz it runs at. If it's 30, that would be kind of a deal breaker for me because ideally
Yeah.
you want about 60 hertz. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's the monitor's refresh rate. It's how often each dot on that monitor is refreshed to show what you're doing. 30 times in a second is kind of slow. Whereas 60, you think about it, that's kind of a one to one. There's or actually that'd be seconds to minutes, but 60 times in a second. There's now even yeah, yeah. So, but even TVs now they're making those that to be like 120 hertz and things like that. So
Yeah.
with 4K,
240 and yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 240. That'd be
That's
really nice.
insane.
But
Yeah.
if you're think about it, if you're video editing, you're moving your mouse a lot, you're doing animations, you're switching applications. If you only have a 30 hertz refresh rate, that could lead to some like bleeding. Like I don't want to say bleeding, not really tearing either, but it won't be as smooth as to what in your mind you expect to see. So that could be a reason why this is sub $1,000. Maybe this only runs at 30 hertz, but either way, this is great news for the industry, being that it's a 4K monitor. It has that 4096 resolution in terms of pixels at that price. That in itself is a breakthrough, regardless of the refresh rate. So me personally, I think what Apple might do, like how you said they haven't refreshed them, they don't have that thin bezel yet. I
Hmm.
think they'll probably stay on what they have now, how they have both a cinema display and a Thunderbolt display. I could see Apple offering a 4K cinema display that doesn't have pack Thunderbolt, maybe like 1500 or so, and maybe have a Thunderbolt with some crazy Apple tax on it, just because Apple still is the leader with Thunderbolt
Yeah.
in terms of how it functions, versus the PC side of things. I could see them having some crazy Apple tax on that, maybe of like 3 grand price tag or something. It'll definitely be up there because it has an Apple logo on it, but I could see Apple, canning what they have now, going with 4K at a price point at least similar to that. Maybe we'll see 1,000 and 2,000 respectively. I would say 15 and 3.
Right,
That's just
right.
that's how I think.
And it makes perfect sense because especially with the adaptation of the AMD Fire Pro video cards and
Yes, yeah,
whatnot, I can definitely see forward is 4K and 8K and everything beyond, and hopefully we see something soon because guess what? There's an update that needs to come out like immediately for the Apple TV. I want to see a brand new Apple
yes,
TV. And I'm sure the first thing they're going to work on is 4K support. So there's something because I own the Apple TV 3, the 1080p model, and I love that thing. But after a while, I'm to the point where I need to buy another one because I use it so much. But I'm waiting because I know as soon as I do, a week later,
they're waiting
they're
on
gonna.
you.
Yeah, maybe. I need to actually. Nah, let me see what Tim Cook's doing. Maybe he's on Twitter. Let me see. No, I'll get back to him later. And but we need to definitely figure that out because with everything becoming upgraded to 4K displays and even higher, we need to find out exactly what's going to happen behind the scenes and see how these different companies are going to accommodate us. Because remember how the solid state drive when it first came out was like impossible to buy for like like a 32 gig or something. It was just some old ridiculous price, but
Yeah,
now they're a lot cheaper. So that's how everything starts off. It always starts off expensive and then gets gradually cheaper as market and demand go up. So hopefully with Dell starting this particular 28-inch 4K display at 699, and it says it launches on January the 23rd, which is very soon from here in just a few weeks. And hopefully like I said, it puts some pressure on these companies, and they go, okay, well, we got to do something because Dell might start killing us with this, and especially since we don't have all the information on it yet. Excuse me, sorry. We don't have all the information on it yet, like you said, as far as refresh rate and everything like that. But once we actually get into like the real nerd specs that we all love to know, we can see if this is a deal breaker or a very good deal to have.
Absolutely, yeah. Frankly, I can't wait to see that. I would love, in a year or so I mean, I just got a GTX 760. There's an upgrade video coming soon on my channel, but I honestly don't even think that this could drive a display like that with all the animations being just as snappy as they should be. I mean, that is so many pixels. Right now, I have two 1080p displays, and it'd be like that one display having two more 1080p displays, and
Yeah,
that's 4K. So, I
yeah.
mean, that's something that you really have to think about. It's like having four 1080p monitors. So, I mean, if you do decide, you want to drop money on this, you better have the computer to handle it. And so,
Yeah.
right with that, we're going to end there and go. That's a really nice segue into our final story for the evening. Is that 4K? You think about the new Mac Pro, and now we actually have some benchmarks. This is lab tested from Macworld about the new Mac Pro and. Dontae, I know you just got a 12-core Mac Pro. You went and upgraded your your quad core or 8-core rather. Got some new Xeon processors in there. And yours, what is your Geekbench right now?
Mine Geekbench is a little under 24K, which is impressive to me because I had a 2012 Mac Mini that Geekbench like 13,000. So that's really good. But when
Slap
I
in the
started
face here.
looking at the benchmarks of the new one, I mean, I'm still trying to pick my jaw up from the floor. I'm just wow. I mean, and you guys got to realize this is a single core in these things that are outperforming my dual 6 cores to get 12 cores on here. So that's 24 threads, ladies and gentlemen. And this is very impressive. And I
Yep.
I mean, just looking here, how it says the new Mac Pro comes with 2 standard configurations. Entry level is $3,000 model, features a 3.7 gigahertz quad core Xeon E5 processor, 256 gigabyte of PCIe connected flash storage, and 12 gigabytes of RAM, and dual AMD Fire Pro D300 graphics. Number one, even at the bottom of the D300 graphics can still pump 4K. And these are expensive parts that are in this. Me and Terrell actually had a conversation over trying to build a Mac Pro out of, I don't want to say Windows based parts, but basically anything that's not made by Apple. Just like if you priced it outright, because people were talking about how expensive the Mac Pro was, it's actually cheaper to buy the Mac Pro than to buy these things separately because the processor alone, the Fire Pro AMD cards are ridiculous. And even having the ECC RAM, I mean, it's crazy. And then also the PCIe flash storage, especially the ones that get up to a terabyte. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, you end up spending so much more money. But looking over here at some of the scores of Speed Mark 9, we have that the 8-core Mac Pro run at 3 gigahertz, had a Speed Mark 9 score of 350. And 12-core the Mac Pro, the mid 2012 model, was a 2.4 gigahertz, got 196. Now you got to realize that was the last Mac Pro 12 core running 2.4 gigahertz. Now that's 2 processors, ladies and gentlemen,
Yep. Two 6 cores.
and
Yep.
one
8-core.
8-core 2013 Mac Pro running 3 gigahertz. Got
Nearly double.
350, nearly double. That is astronomical from one model to the next. And people were saying that Apple couldn't innovate, and it costs too much for what you're getting and things like that. You can't tell me that I can get this performance here now, but when I upgrade, the performance is off the charts. I hold my hands out of the camera view
It
because
is.
that is ridiculous. And then you go even further. We're going into the quad core Mac Pro running at 3.2 gigahertz mid 2012. It had a score of 171. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
That's
Now,
over double.
right. Now, here's something interesting here. The 27-inch iMac quad core with 3.5 gigahertz processor, late 2013 model, actually got a score of 326. And that's pretty
It's
dang
real
good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, for an iMac. And normally iMacs, they're usually not the fastest. Let's just say that. And but the late 2013 27-inch iMac is ridiculously fast. And then they even compared it to the 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro quad core with a 2.3 gigahertz late 2012. Actually got a score of 282, which was actually very, very impressive. And with
Yeah,
these
the thing that
scores,
that really determines that, like, especially because the quad core iMac, you say, "Wow, that's really fast." You have to keep in mind the frequency is so much more. The
right,
8 core Mac Pro is only 3 gigahertz, whereas the iMac's 3.5. And so
right,
in these later processors, each core is capable of so much that you multiply that out, that ends up being a huge difference with just half a gigahertz, frequency on the bus. Like that difference it's very dramatic, which is why people overclock on the PC side.
right. Very, very, I mean, but just the benchmarks and everything that I've seen from now, this is like I said, single core architecture is ridiculous. I mean, I have two processors trying to compete with something that has one. And it's destroying me. It's like, yeah,
Yep.
your upgrade is nothing. You're inferior to me, and I'm only this big. And my cheese grater is huge. It's actually sitting on the floor because it's so tall. And I'm doing everything I can to just get that Geekbench score even higher and get more performance out of
Yep.
it. But it is very, 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 very fast. Now, here's a question, Bob. Do you see yourself buying a Mac Pro in between now and tomorrow?
I would if I could. I mean, if I had like 4 grand, I'd go ahead and buy the 6 core, and especially if they were in stock, that would help too.
Yeah.
But me being a Hackintosh guy, it is amazing, absolutely stunning that Apple can get these kinds of deals on these components and make it as affordable as it is. Because, like you say, there's a lot of people that try to spec out a PC build, and most of the times, from what I've been reading, I've actually looked this up. A lot of people, the hardware itself can be a little bit more affordable, but it's the tax when you buy it that just throws it
Oh
way over.
yeah.
Because I mean, 6, 7, up to like 10% depending on where you live on $3,000, $4,000 worth of components. That is thousands of dollars extra.
Yeah.
So me being a Hackintosh guy, one thing that I really do want to talk about, and this will kind of segue into the Mac Pro itself, not so much the benchmarks, is that we have found out that the Mac Pro is more upgradable than we all thought when Apple first announced it. As it turns out, you can pull out the processor, you can switch out those graphics cards. Granted, you don't have the choice that you do on the PC side of things. You have to have a very specific, say graphics card, and you have to have two of the exact same chipsets in there. You have to have a certain processor, but you can in fact do that, and that is a humongous deal. That's something that pros have been, I guarantee, really wanting to hear. Now, with that said, in the Mac Pro, like for PCI Express based storage, there is only one slot. You can only have one drive. Any expansion in terms of storage or anything like that, that is, reliant on Thunderbolt. And that's something that I still personally really don't like. I don't really want to have to invest in Thunderbolt if I don't have to. And maybe later in the future, Thunderbolt, like how we were talking about the monitors, eventually the prices will come down as it becomes more popular. Even now, I assume we'll start seeing PCI based PCI cards on the PC side of things very shortly here, because after all, Thunderbolt is basically PCI through a cable with DisplayPort mixed into it. So I could see that happening, but until that does happen, I'm still a Hackintosh guy. Even if I have to pay a little more to have a Hackintosh, and this sounds crazy, but if I have to pay, a couple $100 more to get my Hackintosh components to spec up to this Mac Pro, I think it's actually worth it because I can go out and buy a hard drive and throw it in there. I have much more great variety and choice of my components, and that's something that people like me really do like. Now, Dante, if say for example you're walking down the street and you find like 5 grand on the sidewalk, would you put that money towards a custom build or would you buy the Mac Pro?
That is a very interesting question. Oh wow. Honestly, only because of how different that architecture is, I would go ahead and try the Mac Pro.
Yeah.
And the only problem is, like you said, is with storage. That would be my biggest problem as far as, I'm going to probably have to have some, more external drives running through USB because, like you said, even right now, I don't think it's feasible right now to buy
Yeah.
Thunderbolt based storage, and they said that's why they're like, well, that's why there's more Thunderbolt ports than there are USB ports. I'm like, okay, I guess it makes sense, but as of right this second, I think it'd be very, very costly to try to do something like
It
that.
makes
But
more
I'm
business
kind of
sense
with
for
you.
Apple.
Right, it does. But I'm kind of with you right now. Like I said, I've got my Mac Pro. One of the biggest things why I'm glad I upgraded from my 2012 Mac Mini is storage. I'm able to put more storage in. It's more customizable. If I didn't like the processors that came with it, those 2.26 gigahertz quad cores, and I put two 6 cores in it. So that was an option. I mean, and I'm not trying to say that of course, the Mac Pro does have that option. It's probably a little harder, and a lot
More expensive too.
more expensive,
You have to buy one
but
8-core processor instead of two quad cores. It's more expensive.
exactly, exactly. And I just like the upgradability. Coming from a person who I've built Hackintoshes with Terrell, and I've had, let's see, I even had an AMD Hackintosh. It ran like crap, but it just to have the ability to just upgrade whatever you want whenever you want it, is always good. And so it makes sense to me that you would want to stick toward a Hackintosh and want to spec it out and things like that, because sometimes certain designs can make you limited on what you can do, and the Mac Mini was one of them. That was the most limited computer I've ever had. It was very nice. I
Yeah.
think it ran very great for what it was and for the size and the architecture that it was. And I would recommend a person getting a Mac Mini if they wanted an Apple desktop. I really liked it. But I've got so much more power. I already changed out the graphics card in my Mac Pro, already put different processors in my Mac Pro, already upgraded the RAM in the Mac Pro, and there's still more to go. I mean, I was thinking about putting a PCI Express SATA card in it to run my solid state drive and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that you can still do, and being able to upgrade and be able to go as far as you want to go with your hardware is the best, especially for the bang for the buck. So if I was to spend, $3,000, 4,000, I kind of feel, if I can't upgrade something in it, at a decent price, it probably wouldn't be very worth it. But honestly, I'm not too sure what I would do. I think I definitely would buy one just to test it out. I mean, it's those graphics cards I'm really,
Yeah, the
interested
graphics are
on.
insanely
Yeah,
impressive.
that's crazy. And even to be able to get the 6 gigabyte model, I mean, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I think honestly, I'd buy it just to try it out and see, what was going on and how it
Yeah.
ran, and just get some real world and real hands-on experience as far as the cooling and actual graphics performance and things like that, and being able to apply that to a 4K display. I think that would be like the biggest thing. But if it's anything less than that, probably not. I'll just stick with my Mac Pro.
Yeah. Yeah, and it entirely depends on the type of user you are. Like you said with your Mac Mini, there's people that, if you don't want to add more drives or anything, you're fine with a Mac Mini. I mean, it'll still perform
Yeah,
for you very well. People like us, we want to get in there, we want to add stuff, we want to push our hardware to its limits, and then once we kind of, I'll say, outgrow that, then we can swap out the motherboard, and we have that complete freedom to do that. And that's something I like. I like running this machine. And I can say that, yeah, I built this machine with my own hands 3 years ago, and it still is awesome. Like it's my own work. That's something that I really like about it. And like I said, it really just all comes down to the type of user that you are. And lucky for me, I live in PA, so I can go on Newegg and I don't get charged tax. So that's where that's where it's nice for me to be able to spec it out myself. But yeah, I like to have the freedom of PCI, especially for people like me. Like I'm always trying new stuff with Wirecast, and if I had the new Mac Pro and I want to get like a capture card or something, it has to be external. Whereas on my
exactly.
PC, I could throw a PCI card in there much cheaper and get the same results. So once again, totally different. Depends on who you are. I
Yeah.
have seen first, hands-on videos of the Mac Pro. Everyone that has them says it's a engineering marvel. The thing is really quiet. You open that thing up, you take off the Darth Vader mask, and it's just really nice laid out. It's all painted black, everything. Don't get me wrong, it's a gorgeous computer, and me being the geek that I am, I would love to have one sitting right here on my desk. But I'll still always have that spot in my heart where I just want to have, a custom build computer. And one day I might have both. So if I had 5 grand, I think I'd just buy my own Hackintosh because all my drives right now are internal. I have 0 USB drives. I really don't want to have to take up power outlets and go buy external
Yeah.
enclosures for all my hard drives, and I really don't want to invest in Thunderbolt either. So, or another thing, I don't want to have to like network my computer. It's to have both on to be able to access
Right.
my files.
And
It's
then
kind of a
and
mess.
And
So
one more, like a side note, as far as the 2013 Mac Pro is, with its, I mean, it's a really good design, and like you say, it's an engineering marvel. Only thing I have a problem with is once you actually start plugging things up to that thing, it's
doesn't
kind of
look that
hard
nice.
to, yeah, spin it around. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look very nice from the from the back end of it. Well, whereas a Hackintosh or a custom built computer, Mac Pro or something, actually has slots for things you could just unplug, and yeah, you can just unplug those. But when it's actually sitting there, because it's so small, it doesn't look very good. Because cords are different colors. You might have white cords and black cords and whatnot, and then of course you got the Ethernet cords and things like that. It just looked kind of like a tangled mess, when I
Yeah,
saw someone
exactly.
have some 4K displays hooked up to it and some drives and some USB devices and things. It looked kind of messy. I just think for the form factor, it was a little tight, on the spot, to be able to plug everything in. And I mean, because I mean, you have speakers and things like that. So you're going to have, of course, some cords coming out from the speaker outlets and the USB drives and the
Yep.
Thunderbolt slots. And then, of course, there's a power cord. And then, that's probably my only gripe about the 2013 Mac Pro. But yeah, I definitely can see and understand what you're saying about just building a really nice Hackintosh for that, because hey, they're very stable. I already told you that there's my college professor. He looks on your channel and your Hackintosh builds to build his own Hackintosh. So I highly recommend it, and especially being able to spec it out, and plus for the price and what you can get with a Hackintosh, you got a lot more upgradability and a little longer life, I believe. Because, like you said, if you don't like it after it gets so old, you can just swap the motherboard out, keep your case and everything, and just put all the internal guts in it and just upgrade it, and you're good to go. So,
Exactly. Yep. We could talk all day about the Mac Pro. We might actually do an episode on the Mac Pro one day, just because there's so much to talk about on both sides of the argument. But just one last thing here. I know there's a lot of people that comment on my videos, especially my. I actually made a YouTube video about my thoughts on the new Mac Pro, and there's a lot of people that say, well, yeah, you can buy all the PC components, spec it out to be identical or great or whatever, but there's no guarantee it's going to work or be stable. And I have to say that's false. My computer here, I built 3 years ago. My computer, my Hackintosh here has seen Snow Leopard, it's seen Lion, it's seen Mountain Lion, now it's seen Mavericks. Never have I once had a problem. As long as you do your research, stability really isn't something that you have to be all that concerned about. There might be an update that might make you lose audio, but it's as simple as installing a driver like you would in Windows, and it's back up and running. So Hackintoshes aren't as unstable as they were back in the days of Snow Leopard. Now that the PC side of things and Mac side of things, they both use the same processors now. They both use a lot of the same X and Y variables. It is very, very stable nowadays. So especially with the help of my videos, of course, on my channel. Tons of hours of content there with tips and tricks, whatever. If you're at all interested in building a Hackintosh, if you're a professional that, I've actually built clients. I've built Mufasa. Check out my channel. He was a professional video editor, still runs Mufasa. So if you're at all interested, you're kind of skeptical, feel free to contact me, or even Dontae is very knowledgeable in this area. So if you have any questions at all about what we think, if you're a professional looking to upgrade your setup, not sure if you want to go Thunderbolt, whatever have you, hit us up. We'll be glad to help you. So like I said, we could talk all day about the Mac Pro. Long story short, benchmarks are out of this world, crazy awesome. And so that's pretty much all we're going to talk about today. Now we have one last section of the show. We're going to talk about some tech treats really quick. My tech treat, I'll just go ahead and kick it off really quick here. My tech treat is a fun game for iOS called Plague Inc. Now, I believe this game does cost $1 or maybe two, but basically what you do, and you're going to just run out and buy it as soon as you hear what you do. You create a virus, you give it a name, and you kill everybody on the face of the earth. That's what you do in this game. So you could choose how the virus mutates. You could choose where it starts, how it's spread. It's a really fun game. And if you're at all interested in wanting to just wipe out the whole like 7 billion people on planet Earth, this is the game for you. So go ahead and check it out. It is iPhone, iPad. I wish they had a Mac version, but they don't. So go ahead and check it out there. There are some in-app purchases you can get. Personally, I haven't bought them, but I think it's just a really fun app even without them. So for $1 or two, go ahead and give the developer some money to wipe out everybody. So Dontae, if you have a tech treat, go ahead and share it with us.
Um, my tech treat was actually a plug, but you already did it. Basically, I was just basically going to plug your Hackintosh builds, and a lot of people that get into this thing. I just want people to see that you can start a Hackintosh from the ground up by looking at Bob's videos. He has very good videos on his YouTube channel, and he has a lot of subscribers and a lot of views of those videos. So I didn't want people to be afraid to, people who have questions and want to maybe start but don't know where to start. I mean, it's basically compatible hardware with the right software. And that was basically something I was trying to get out there, because there's been a lot more talks about building Hackintoshes in my inner circle anyway. And I always point them to the same source. I point them to your websites and everything.
Much
And
appreciated.
you can get real intricate into it with kex files and different boot plist files and changing things down into the system. But if you want it to actually run and boot up for you, the simplest way is to follow Bob's videos, and he goes step by step through everything that you need to have beforehand. But it's always preparation before you do these things. Kind of see and know what
Absolutely.
you're getting into. That way you can know what you're doing. And then it's not like you can't have Windows on it. I know these are Windows-based parts, but you can dual boot, triple boot, it doesn't matter. And you can have a legit, full working, running Windows version of Windows 7, Windows 8, it doesn't matter. And it will still run fine. But it's to be able to have the architecture of Apple's products on your actual Windows-based parts, and it worked just like the way Apple intended it. And I want people to not be skeptical or scared to do it. I think everyone should try it, and you'd be surprised how cheap you can actually build a good,
Absolutely.
nice running Hackintosh, because the things that are going to cost you the most are going to be the processor, the video card, and depending on what RAM you want to run. Well, that's only three pieces. You can have any old piece of crap case that you want, power supply, as long as everything's compatible with your card and everything can handle it. And I had an Alienware Hackintosh that I built, and I didn't have an optical drive in it until I sold it. And because optical media is pretty much done, and
Pretty much.
for me anyway. And I just want people to check out roachetechnology.com. You can always find us here on this podcast with Tech Habit Weekly. But please feel free to leave us comments if you want to start doing a Hackintosh and want to know where to go and what to do, because I have personally bought things and bought pieces of hardware from the store to ship to Bob to build the Hackintoshes, because people are very interested in this. And I think it's a very good thing. I think everyone should at least try it at least once. And guess what? If it doesn't work out for you, if you don't like it, guess what? You still have a good computer. You can throw Windows on it, wipe your drive, and you're good to go. Nothing changes. That
Absolutely.
was another thing. A lot of people kept thinking that once you actually build a Hackintosh and make the software adjustments and everything to it to run OS X, that it's stuck like that. And that couldn't be further
Yeah,
from the
not
truth.
the case.
Yeah. And, things are upgradable. I'm talking, I've used, matter of fact, this is the same magic, or this trackpad and my same magic mouse and everything. I bought all this when I had my Hackintosh, not when I got a Mac Pro or a Mac Mini and things like that. And it all worked well. Yeah, I had to use a Bluetooth dongle, but it worked perfectly. I was able to do everything that I had to do. And you'd be surprised how stable they actually run. And it actually got to a point where I almost forgot I had a Hackintosh because it
Yeah.
ran so much like a Mac. But so that's my tech treat. You guys check out roachetechnology.com and hit the like and subscribe button here. Subscribe to his channel. Check out the Hackintosh builds. Tech Habit Weekly here for the podcast. And that's basically it. I just want you guys to expand your mind a little bit. This I know
Learn
it can
some
be scary
stuff.
because you're spending money on something that you're not sure how it's going to perform. But the videos are so in depth, it's step by step. Miley Cyrus could do this. Don't quote me on that, but Miley Cyrus could build a Hackintosh. So,
Please don't.
but that's it. So
Yes, thank you, sir.
if you get that call, I'm busy that day. You can handle Miley Cyrus's Hackintosh.
My address changed and everything.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you,
So,
sir. Absolutely. And also, what we should be doing, we're scheduled to be doing a live Hackintosh build, not this upcoming Saturday, the
okay.
Saturday after, the 18th. If you guys have seen my last live Hackintosh video, live build video on my YouTube channel, it's going to be the same format. Dontae is going to be here with me. I'm going to be building a computer, so be sure to come by, check it out. It's going to be a Haswell build. We're looking at dual 660s, so it's going to be a pretty interesting build. I'm never done a dual GPU Hackintosh before. So be sure to come out for that. That is possible. It could change, but be sure to follow us here. We'll be here next week. Be sure to follow both me and Dontae on Twitter at CPU Kid, at KC Nightmare. Also be sure to give our producer a huge shout out for controlling the show, all the camera angles, putting it all together. He will also be producing the day of the live build. He's at 1P4 Terrell, Terrell on Twitter. So be sure to give him a follow, and be sure to like this video on YouTube and subscribe to it in the iTunes feed. So Dontae, pleasure talking to you, sir. Always great conversations about technology, a thing we love most. Go ahead and tell people where they can find you, obviously besides Twitter.
Actually, you can find me at several locations. You can find me at timcooktechnologies.com. Me and him, we do a live pod. No, that's a lie. You can basically, the best place to catch me is on twitter.com at KC Nightmare. And,
Gotcha.
if you guys just hit me up with comments and questions, concerns, things like that, something you may want to see more of, something you might see too much of, we're all open to criticism and, everything. So, whatever comments and concerns and questions you guys may have, if you guys miss, the Arnold Schwarzenegger impression because it wasn't on here, now we'll take Habit Weekly. So there you go. And, just like and subscribe the video here and follow us on Twitter, and we'll catch you next time for the next episode of Tech Habit Weekly.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for watching. See you next week.